I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Mensches.
Well, happy Friday. It's a Card Mensch Friday. How you doing, John?
Good. It's been a week. What's going on? Oh, wait, that's the regular rotation.
It's been 2 weeks, I know.
That's what I meant.
Exactly. We've got a big week ahead. I want to thank our sponsors, as always, SGC, Waxstat, and as always, my favorite card scanning app, Center
Stage HQ.
I want to give them a compliment because they've become a verb. People were saying center stage it at the last show I was at. So
yeah, anytime you be well, I don't want to say anytime. Most times you become a verb. It's pretty good. Not all the time. Like if you're a baseball player and you Buckner the ball, that's not a verb you want to be have after you.
I heard Bill Buckner was so upset after the World Series, he was going to go right into traffic. Car went between his legs.
See, even in death, he's still getting picked on.
No, Bill Buckner was an underrated player.
He honestly was.
And actually, that was one of the things that I didn't realize when I was younger that I learned when I was older and changed my mind. And that's what we're talking about today, are things in the hobby where we've changed our minds.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to say is it's okay to change your mind. I think that sometimes people are so kind of stuck in the mud. I could qualify with this on certain things, but it's okay to, as you mature or things change in the world or in the hobby, to have a different approach. And so tonight's show is obviously going to be hobby related, not politics or anything else. It's going to be hobby stuff that we've done a 180 on, and we've kind of each picked three things that we've sort of did an about face on how we feel about it and approach. I will start out by saying this: NFTs did not make the list. I still feel the same about it today as I did when they came out, maybe even more so. So sorry, NFTs, you did not make today's show.
That's funny. I think you also 6 months ago said to me, Danny, what's dibs?
Dibs is what you call like next game. Like I got dibs on next game, which
exactly.
is I'm sure where they came up with the name as well from. But you won't be hearing that shortly, at least pertaining to the business side of it anymore, as they announced they were going defunct. So you can say I got dibs on next game now and not be talking about a business.
Okay. So we said we've changed our mind on things. Let's talk about stuff that's not necessarily on our list. Okay. In general, I've changed my mind on things as a sports fan. And maybe it's technology. I don't feel the need to go to as many games in person as I used to when I was younger. When I was younger, I felt I couldn't miss any games. And maybe now I have kids, I'm a little bit older. I enjoy a game on TV, maybe the quality of the picture. So that's something I've changed my mind on. I've changed my mind on probably base cards. That's something that I didn't used to enjoy maybe quite as much. But those are just some general ideas of things that we might be talking about tonight. So if anybody has stuff in the comments to add in, we definitely want to throw to those throughout the evening.
Yeah, no doubt. If we care about what you guys feel and think, so put in the chat room, and even if you're listening to this after we're done being live, put on the comments things you've done, 180 on that. Maybe even you never thought you yourself would do, but yet there you are, right? It's admitting we're human and we have emotions and feelings, and those feelings and emotions can change whenever the mood strikes us and hits us. And again, we're going to talk about three things each for us. This is everyone's show, so we care about, or even if you agree or disagree with some of our opinions as well.
Well, who do you want to kick it off here? You want to go first, or?
Yeah, I could go first. So I'll try to go in sort of a crescendo order of least shocking to more shocking, if you will. None of these are really shocking. I know disclaimer there, But for me, non-sports stuff, Danny, like I've never really was sort of a non-sports guy. I was always sort of baseball, football, basketball, hockey in my collecting, even in selling. Even as a dealer, I didn't really veer off that path too much. Some of that, I think the main crux of why is frankly I didn't know enough of non-sports. I don't like to sell things that I can't talk about or explain to a potential buyer. So that was definitely a reason I never like had it as show inventory. But even as a collector, I just never really, maybe when I was a kid, I know some of the first cards I had were not the 79 base. I don't remember opening packs, so someone must have gave them to me. But the Jaws cards made by Topps back in the day, I had some of those that I
Yep.
think someone just said, "Hey, you want these?" And I'm like, "Okay," and I had them. But that's not really collecting them. I didn't have a set. I wasn't going out looking for, hey, where can I get more of these? It just someone gave them to me. I thought they were kind of neat, and that was the end of it. So that's my first thing. I've sort of changed my mind on non-sports, as some have seen with my social media. I've really acquired some, grails. I've acquired Billy Joel's Panini sticker. I just acquired Al Pacino's first appearance on any kind of trading card collectible. It's a Spanish release, 1976 brand called Fans, Fans. I've got Lady Gaga's first card. Yes, I'm a Lady Gaga fan. The truth comes out. I've already kind of announced that. I'm trying to think what.
Okay. Is there any truth to the rumor you were going to start tonight's show in an egg?
If anything, I'd have a meat suit on before I come out of an egg, because then I could like put those on the grill, and it's like multi-purpose. Like it could be an outfit and dinner at the same time. The egg is just the prop, and then what do you do with it? Takes up space in the corner of your room. At least the meat suit, I could like fire up, and we have dinner for like the next 3 or 4 days. And I want to give a shout out. One of the reasons I think I've gotten in more non-sports is because I feel like I'm more knowledgeable. And Chad Darth Brizzo from Instagram, I really picked his brain on researching a lot of this stuff before I bought it. So without probably some of his guidance, I may have not have jumped in the non-sports pool in the way I did. So, and now I'm looking for more stuff. There's Christopher Walken's first card, which by the way is a 1953. Get ready, Bowman. That's right, Bowman baseball, but it's not baseball. They did a TV Stars edition in 1953, and he was known as Ronnie Walken then, which is his actual given. His real name is Ronnie Christopher Walken. He then changed it to Christopher, but on this card, it's Ronnie Walken, and he's a 12-year-old kid. And if you didn't know, you might not know. Now you know. So I've gotten it. Non-sports is that's my new rap song.
I was about to say, now I know. I'm not sure what I know, but I didn't know it before. Now I know it.
uh,
Okay.
so non-sports is something I've sort of done a 180 on, and I'm not regretting it. I honestly wish I did it sooner, because some of these cards that I've had to acquire would have been a lot cheaper had I done it sooner. But it's never too late, right? And so that's the first one I'm going to talk about on my list. So which one you're going to throw out there for yourself?
Well, for me, and I want to make sure I'm clear about this. I've always liked autographs, but I never used to get autographs actually on baseball cards. For some reason, I don't know. Mentally, I didn't like having the autograph on the card, unless it came from the manufacturer. I've turned a total 180 on that. I love autograph cards now. I love people who do TTM. I absolutely will buy slabbed autograph cards and thoroughly enjoy them. That is something where I've pulled a full 180. I think the combination of the appreciation for the card itself plus the athlete and the autograph, to me, just is a better package than I used to give it credit for. I think before I felt it was taken away from the card, maybe. And now I feel differently. Now I do like the whole package better. And a lot of times I like the autograph card more than maybe a generic autograph baseball that's not from the time period where a player played. Having a guy from the 50s sign a ball with Commissioner Selig on it loses something, but having them sign their actual baseball card is a little bit more personal for me. So that's one where I've pulled a 180.
Yeah. And so I haven't changed because I don't have a problem with signed baseball cards. But piggybacking off that, Danny, I will say this. Back in the day, it was kind of sacrilegious. Now it's like a huge deal, as you very well know. But back in the day, it was sacrilegious to get a rookie card signed. It was almost considered ruining the rookie card. Like you're writing on the rookie card. If you grade it, it's going to get dinged for having pen or Sharpie on it. And now we know that's a big business now is graded signed rookie cards, right? It's huge. It's huge.
Absolutely.
There's dealers at shows that's all their inventory is. But back in the day, I remember even when I was going to the ballpark to get like autograph card signed, unless it was a rookie that was the only cards they had at the moment, I would always go with a second year card to get signed. So if their rookie was 89, I would bring 1990 edition cards. If it was 89 and that was all they had, then yes, I would have a rookie card signed.
I wonder if that's, you and I collected and started young, not too far apart. I wonder if that was a generational thing. And I'd be curious if anybody else who's older than they want to admit grew up thinking you don't sign rookie cards, you don't sign cards as much.
Well, I can tell you in the hobby back then, I'm not talking now. So if anyone's listening, remember we're going back to the 80s here, mid to late 80s. And I'm not saying people didn't do it. It was just sort of frowned upon, like, oh man, don't get your rookie card like written on. And now that's a huge market, and I think rightfully so. It's kind of cool now when you think about it. But back then, right? It's a lot of things when you compare eras to, right? Back then, if you would have told me, 20 years later, 30 years later, you'd be paying someone else to open your packs on screen for you, right? And then have the card sent to you, I would have thought you're crazy. Heck, I didn't even want my friends opening my packs that were mine right next to me. Like, get your own packs, right? Get off my lawn, get off my packs, buy your own. Or you opened all yours. I just haven't finished opening mine. You opened them too quick. But, that same person had bought into breaks and watched someone else open, packs on screen where I might get some of those cards. If you would have told me then that would be a thing 30 years from now, I would have thought you crazy. Another thing I've already changed my mind on is grading itself. When grading first came out, Danny, I've said this on my show, I thought it was a money grab and a gimmick. There's probably some people still would say that.
For some companies.
I'm not one of them anymore. I've done a complete 180, but that's not a recent one. So that's why I'm mentioning it, but it's not one of my three because I've changed quite a bit ago. So that's not a new revelation. But,
sure.
That's just an example of changing your mind.
Okay, a little housekeeping here. I want to thank everybody who is tuning in from Fairleigh Dickinson, upsetting Purdue. That's a final 16-1 in the NCAA tournament. We are live every other Friday night. We got a hello from Contender Sports Cards. Evening, fellas. We also have a hello from a league of her own. Hello. And Hodges. Yep. Hello, John and Danny. Hello back at you. And then actually, I thought this was an interesting comment. For decades, card designs included a facsimile signature, so apparently designers / producers of cards thought the cards looked better with an autograph on it. Well, I'll say I thought some years looked better than others. I didn't think it was consistently good or bad. I always thought it had to do more with the overall aesthetic. But that's a great point.
Yeah, that was from Dufects of Life. Yeah, listen, cards are made to get signed, right? I mean, that's sort of one of the intents, right? I mean, my dad, told me stories back when he was going to Ebbets Field. They would sometimes the cards would get assigned, not in the same probably way today where you go to a game, right? And the autograph hounds, they got like books with the cards, or they just pull out a page and it's all that one guy and they hand the guy the book. And a lot of times the player will say, listen, I'm only signing one of these. I got to get to everybody, right? But they at least try, right? It's a different era when it comes to autographs. I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, autographs were like, hey, this is my favorite player. This is my favorite team. This is for me. Now we know there was no eBay in 1956. So
Well,
it's a different era.
I was about to say that's called a professional tease. John, do you have anything else on your list of things that have changed your mind?
Yeah. So listen, you know, love me or don't love me, I'm a straight shooter. I'm an honest guy, and this one might shock somebody, right? Most people have heard me talk about PWCC at different times on the show with some of the alleged past discretions and things that happen, right? And I think I may have even said, there'll never be someone I do business with. But I had Jesse Craig on the show about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I've gotten to know him and met him in person, talked to him in person. Really good guy. And so I've softened my stance. And a couple weeks ago, as you well know, Danny, I made a purchase on a PWCC auction, and
Yep.
I didn't have the. I've only bought one card. I want to, to sound like a lawyer defending myself here. I only bought one card. It was a Griffey uh, hot gloves from back in the ultra days. So one of those 90 inserts, tough inserts. And I didn't want to, when only owning one card, I didn't want to deal with all the pay to ship it. I didn't necessarily need it. It's not a card that's going to go out in my showcase necessarily. So I have a PWC vault, I guess now,
Wow, you didn't even tell
with
me that.
with
Oh
this
no.
one card in it. So listen, nothing's come. I'll say this. It's been years since we've heard anything negative. Everything else prior, while I may believe it to be some truth, where there's smoke, there's fire, that sort of thing. They've apparently, whether it's scared straight or whatever the case may be, they've cleaned up their act. I haven't heard anything, even in the whispers that don't always make it to airwaves. I haven't heard any more negative stuff. And so, if the feds are not going to charge them and they've cleaned up their act, I've gotten to know someone who's very high up there who actually, frankly, was hired after those things apparently or allegedly went down. I'm going to kind of turn the page, and I did buy something on the PWC auction.
You want to read that, John? My eyes.
Yeah, Contender Sports Cards on Instagram. He says, I changed my mind on selling cards raw as opposed to grading them first to resell. Yeah, and listen, I'll back that. I've sell
That's a good
both
point.
graded and raw cards. The only bad, I don't want to say bad. Maybe that's not the right terminology. The only risk you take with selling a raw card, right? If it's not in person, obviously, is the old switcherooski, right? You send. I'm just going to make up a card, right? You sell a Steve Garvey rookie that's very good, excellent, and someone buys it and you send it to them and they have a beat up Steve Garvey and they keep yours that you send them and they try
Oh,
to tell eBay or whatever selling platform, hey, this is what he sent me. Look at this. This is not the card in the photo, right? And it's a
what,
way to upgrade their raw card and get it for free, right? And listen, most people don't do that. I'm not trying to say that's a wide.
Uncle John is not coming over to tell bedtime stories.
Yeah, so but it has happened. It has
Yep.
happened. It's happened to me.
But
It's
you know
happened
what?
to me once or
That
twice that I'm pretty
that's
sure of.
exactly why the next one on my list is I like the online marketplaces now for the authenticity guarantee. Does that make you feel any better?
Sure, but it's not foolproof. I think
Sure.
we've seen some stories where even the eBay authenticity has authenticated something that turned out not to be the genuine artifact too. So it's not 100% foolproof. Listen, we all know this, right? We've seen graded card companies grade stuff that wasn't either the real McCoy or turned out to be altered or doctored or trimmed or rolled or viced or whatever that was done to it. We've seen uh, autograph authenticators. They're usually pretty good. Well, we've even seen them, certify something that turned out to be maybe a clubby signature or not even authentic. So remember, people are human. Okay, so let me give that disclaimer too. Mistakes will happen. Nothing is 100% foolproof. And I know I mentioned the switcherooski. 99% of people would not do that sort of thing, right? But there is that 1% that's out there that if you cross paths, that's where you could get burned on a raw transaction. I sell raw cards too, Contender Sports. So I'm not saying you're wrong or it can't be done. I do it, but I'm saying that's the risk you're willing to take when you do that.
But I'm gonna agree with you and say it's come so far in the last couple of years that I now feel much more comfortable that I have some sort of support behind me. I remember when PayPal dictated, every eBay transaction, you could just void it on PayPal, and as a seller, you'd really be screwed. And that didn't make me feel comfortable in either direction. And I didn't feel good as a buyer, and I didn't feel good as a seller. So one of the changes for me, one of the things that has changed my mind is I will now buy much more comfortably on online marketplaces that offer some sort of confidence. The quality of the images have gotten so much better. I think some of this is the technology. I mean, when you and I were doing shows, I mean, there was barely an internet, much less a high resolution image that you could call up quickly. So that's something I've definitely changed my mind on. And even though I go to as many card shows as I can, as many, card shops as I can, the vast majority of my transactions are still online.
Yeah, and one pro tip too, when taking pictures of your cards, folks, leave your feet out of it. They have nothing to do with the player depicted on the card. And believe me, it's not enhancing how good your card is or isn't. So
Unless you're selling a Rex Ryan, in which case.
Rex Ryan. Who knew we were talking about Rex Ryan tonight? But you know what? From a Baltimore Ravens fan, I'm not. I'm not completely caught up.
All right, another good one from Contender Sports Cards. Changed my mind on reputable group submitters as well. Used to think some of them switched out the grades, but it hasn't been the case to this point. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just having somebody you trust and having that relationship, I think absolutely does that. And then Brendan Ryan, PWCC, BBCE, excuse me, a lot of letters there. Just to name a few acronyms that have shady dealings and are probably counting on people forgetting about the past. Golden has made a career of it. Well, I think.
I'm laughing because he hit like the trifecta of doom right there. With Goldman,
Yep.
PWCC, and B. I don't know who. I don't think anyone got left out there. I think that was like the Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire, like the whole history
Just burn
of
down the
like
whole
the
burn down
world.
the whole hobby with that one.
No, and Brendan's right, right? Listen, I bought a card up here, like, I'm man enough to say, hey, I crossed that line, right? I Moonlight Grammed it, right? Remember Field of
Yep.
Dreams when you can't go back, you cross that line and it's over. So I did that with PWCC. I've never won a golden auction. I think when I was trying to get my Leaf Jackie, I did bid on a few there, but didn't win it there. And don't get me started with BBCE. That's I just when you make some of the mistakes they have, it's I just don't know. It's sort of I guess a crapshoot. Like what is I have some boxes, Danny. I have some boxes over there
Sure.
that are wrapped by BBC. So I'm not being a hypocrite here. Like, does that wrapping and certification mean what it used to? Now,
No.
the boxes I have are not
I just
million
answered.
dollars
The answer is
or
no. The
six
answer is
figure
no.
boxes. Yeah, but I mean, what I don't know. It's just a definitely the egg on their face more than once. So
But you're right.
I agree.
But you're 100% right. I mean, part of this is reputation for every company. But like you said before, everybody's made mistakes. So the question is how many mistakes, what kind of mistakes, and how do you handle the mistake when it happens? And I think that's really what we're talking about. Like you said, PWCC when they left eBay, you had a lot of new management really came in and listen. Jesse Craig sat down with you and took a lot of questions head on, directly about the situation. So, and I know what wasn't just with you. He's been consistent about that. And for full disclosure, I was more comfortable with PWCC before you were. And for even more full disclosure, you have lost more PWCC auctions in the last couple of weeks than I realized. So
Yeah.
you've really got the hang. You've really got the hang on bidding. We got to get you
Well,
more wins.
listen, well, what do we know about the hobby, right? For the most part, right? We have short term memory, right? A big story breaks and it catches fire, and for a week, it's all content, myself included. I'm not picking on right. All the content creators are doing shows and content and features about it. And then, like the next week, it sort of dies down and it just kind of fades away. And we almost, not necessarily me, but we almost forget it happened, right? And I think one of the reasons that happens, Danny, in the hobby is just we have so many new people coming in that unless the story happens when you're in the hobby, I don't think a lot of new hobbyists go back and look at the history of the hobby. They're concerned with from the time they get in and then forward. And even the ones that are in the hobby, like it's news and then it's slowly out of sight, out of mind. Right. And I think that's just the way the hobby is. And unless there's ever like a rest or something really, really just mind blowing, terrible, right? I mean, look what
Yep.
BBCE is a great example. They've swung and missed badly on like national, in a sense, national TV, and yet people are still,
GI Joe will be synonymous with them forever.
yeah. And they're a meme now. They've become a meme of themselves. Yet people will still send boxes
Well,
there or packs to get certified, right?
and they
I
and they
don't think
still
their
have some of
business
the
has
best.
been hurt that much.
Well, I was about to say they still have a great selection of stuff to buy that almost nobody else carries.
And they're still going to be set up at the National, and they're
Yep.
still going to have a lot of people around their table. They're still going to sell product. They're still going to get submissions. So
But
I
is it
think
different?
until we get a hobby where we hold people truly accountable, this is what the way the hobby's going to be.
But is it different if they change management teams? Because I'm willing to give a lot more leeway if you have new people in place that are trying to make it right. I don't
I
necessarily
guess
hold.
but I could take the other side of that coin, Danny, and say the new management team is in place to say, hey, we didn't have nothing to see here. We weren't here. We're turning the page. We got new protocols. It won't happen. It didn't happen the first time, and it's never going to happen again.
Yep.
So I could take that side of the coin, but it takes some of the heat off. Dufex advice said Geraldo still gets work after
Geraldo.
Geraldo. Listen, I haven't seen him much lately, so I don't know how much work he's been getting.
I think he's in the vault himself right now.
Yeah, I'm not saying he isn't working, but he's nowhere in prime time like he used to be. And I got Geraldo mixed up with Geraldo, Rico Suave from MTV days.
Ooh, nice
you go.
call on the Rico. Nice call on the Rico Suave.
If you don't know, look up Gerardo on YouTube. If you're not old enough to remember him.
And while you're at it, look up Right Said Fred. I'm too sexy. Just because if you're on YouTube, you might as well check it out. Okay, so we're at here. The new management at BGS hasn't seemed to change anything. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just
it,
gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave that at. Let's see where the hobby is after the Mint Collective. I think a lot of companies.
yeah. There's gonna be a
Already
lot
know
of
what it is.
announcements. People are saving up some of the stuff they've already made decisions on for that event, and that's become, I've never been yet at this point, but that's become sort of, kind of like a mini national, and with a lot of corporate, a lot of networking, and a lot of announcements during that event.
Well, I am. Well, I was looking forward to going. I don't have airfare right now, so I've got a GoFundMe page if anybody wants to send me to Vegas. Okay, so do you have anything else on your list?
Yeah, yeah, we'll go through it quick. I know we're
Yeah.
running up again. We're having too much fun tonight, and we kind of touch on it, right? Card shows, and please, what I'm about to say, don't take it. I love a card show as much as the next guy. I'm set up Sunday at the fairgrounds, and I do, about 6 to 8 card shows a year as a dealer, and I go to others as a consumer. But back in the day, I used to go to card shows. I used to travel and go to, and this was before the boom of card shows that we know it today. I was almost every weekend at a card show, and the older I get, and I was younger and more spry, and could take the travel and not miss a beat, right? It was before my son was born. My son's now 23, so it's not like he's preventing me from going. But I don't enjoy that grind. I'll just say it like that, Danny. I don't enjoy the grind of going to a card show every weekend. You see these and God bless them. God bless them. I'm not saying they're bad, they're wrong, or I'm right. I just can't keep up with traveling the country at a car show. I enjoy my weekends too much. And whether that's, you know, doing something with my wife, or just taking a nap on a Saturday, or just watching sports, or the first 48 marathon, or whatever it is. Sometimes I like having a weekend or I've got no plans. It's just whatever that comes up or I want to do. So I don't want to go to shows. I don't want to travel the country and go to show. So that's where I've changed, in probably the last few years, where I just don't have any interest in going to a show every weekend. And even doing the shows I do, I feel it more than I've ever had. Like the day after the show, I'm a little beat up and sore. I'm getting old. I'm past my prime, and so I give credit to those, whether you're a content creator or just going around buying or
Or a
selling. I
dealer.
know, yeah,
Yep.
you travel more for shows than I do. I just don't have it in me. I couldn't do it. The only way I could do that again, it literally would have to be my job. And that's what, when I did that, when I mentioned that time I did that, I was full time in the hobby when I was doing that. I'm not now. I sort of don't want to be. I never rule. I never say never. Um, but I don't. I don't want to be somewhere else every weekend. I want to be home sometimes.
Well, as somebody who works full time in the hobby, I'll pretend not to be insulted by that. But no, I
Shots
understand what
fired.
you're. uh, that's an offline joke, kids. So I enjoy going to shows even for my downtime. So maybe that makes me a total card nerd. But if I wasn't working, I would still look for card shows. And as you know, I go to card shops every city I'm in. I'm dealing with some family travel right now, and any minute I can get to a shop, I try to hit as many local card shops as possible. So for me, even on my downtime, I would be doing that anyway. So you and I are a little bit different there. I get energized walking into a show. Now I don't set up as a dealer, and that's the difference. It's a whole different type of work. Setting up as a dealer is a long day, or multiple long days. Hello, everyone. Collector Stream. And so I don't know that I could do the setup, the breakdown, and work the table myself all day, or much less a multi-day show. So there is a difference there. But I can I'll go to as many shows as I can get to.
Plus, I don't like to drive like I used to. Like I used to drive like 4 or 5, 6 hours straight. Don't even stop to use the restroom or get a drink and just go. I can't do that anymore, man. I'm past my prime when it comes to certain things, right? Hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm like, hey, who's taking over? There's no one else in the car. I'm like, it's a trip I'm making by myself without my wife. So, you know, uh, I just don't have that stamina for driving, for traveling, like I used to. But I will say this: I can give all the details. I am going out of state for a show in April. Details to come.
Yep. And as you know, I'm in the middle of driving 5 or 6 hours every day right now. So I'm getting to the place where I'm starting to feel it a little bit. But I will give a shout out to New Balance if they want to send me free sneakers. I now carry multiple New Balances for every trip and every show. So maybe that's my age. All right, before we move on, anything else? I know we could probably list 100 things because I think we adapt more or less pretty well.
Yeah, no, those were the three things that at least are fairly recent. We went back in the archives, like you said, we could do 2 hours, but we kept it to just sort of recent changes of heart. So,
Well, then I think it's time we tell people that they should be checking out waxstat.com for the hobby's best wax pricing information, and they really are fantastic. And of course, download the Center Stage HQ app from the App Store or iOS and Android. It could not be easier. Place your phone over the card, scan, get the price, and they now include a lot of graded cards as well. And our favorite, as always,
experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry. We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
Now I'm going to cut you off here because you usually speak up because I know
I was going to say something.
I know, but I need to give a shout out because I'm in the middle in my personal podcast of doing a comparison between a couple grading companies and the turnaround times. And without ruining the whole show, I will say SGC has blown away in the turnaround time. So as more of a neutral observer and somebody who's running a double-blind study, it is truly a quicker turnaround time.
Yeah, and a shameless plug. I mentioned the show I'll be at Sunday, which is at the New York State Fairgrounds. It's called the Collectors Fest. I will have a table there on behalf of SGC taking those subs, and you could probably expect that if you sub at that show, probably the next week or the following week, those very same cards will be back in our hands, graded by SGC. They are super fast. The last bulk sub I sent was 200 something cards. I sent it on a Monday, and it was back. I sent it on Monday, and it was back here the following Wednesday. So 9 days total from shipping to shipping, graded in full. So I don't think anyone's beating that. No one's beating that with the reputation behind it as well. So that's all I have to say.
Which means it is time for
Welcome to the failure segment, where John and Danny share their picks sure to go wrong.
And what else could we be talking about this week but our Final Four predictions? So as we sit here, and I was getting ready to come on tonight and tell everybody Purdue all the way, baby. We were going to ride those Boilermakers like nobody's business. Well, they're upset tonight, so I do have my real Final Four. Should we take turns? How do you want to do this? Or should I just read mine here?
Let's do this. Let's listen. First off, please do not take anything we're about to say to DraftKings, to your betting app of choice, FanDuel, your bookie, the local casino where you put. We're not responsible. I will tell you, of all years, this is the year I followed college basketball the least. I'm usually fairly up on it. I'll self admit, for whatever reason, maybe it was because Syracuse played so poorly this year that Jim Boeheim had to retire. I'm not a Jim Boeheim fan. He should have retired 10 years ago, but it took a really bad Syracuse year for it to happen. I kind of like checked out of following college basketball. I still know a little bit, but don't put any money on what I'm about to say. What I would do, Danny, is give two at a time. You give two, I'll give two, you give your last two.
Okay.
And then
Well,
I'll
first
give
of
my
all,
last.
let me correct you. Jim Boeheim retired 2 or 3 years ago. Nobody told him. He was just asleep in the chair the whole time.
Here's the Joe Paterno of
Right.
best.
Exactly. Okay. So we'll call it the right side of the bracket here. I have Houston and Kansas. I'm chalk on my right side there, so I know that's going to be unexciting. But I heard a great stat this year, and you kind of actually said it, was the favorites were the least favored favorites since the Field of 64 came out. So it was the highest odds against winning for the favorites since the Field of 64 in the tournament. So that just shows you this year's really open for anybody.
Well, look how many upsets we've had already, and it's like almost like literally the first weekend. It is crazy. Every year it seems like there's somebody that like gets it right on the brackets, like aces it. I don't know if this might be the year no one aces the whole thing. But I got two different teams than you, and they're both from the same state. And again, probably pick sure to go wrong, but sorry, Texas and Baylor. But that's who I got. Texas and Baylor. I believe that's the same side of the bracket. So,
well, I think the sides are made up by whichever company does the thing. So maybe I shouldn't have said the right side. That was probably terrible. But I did have Baylor also. I did not have Texas. I had Marquette. So maybe that's just showing my age when Marquette was a real powerhouse, or if you were a Dwayne Wade fan. But I like Baylor and Marquette to round out my Final Four.
And my last two, and I know Coach K's not there anymore, but I like Duke. I know they're the fifth seed. I know they're not, traditionally viewed right now what or they're not viewed right now what they're traditionally viewed as when they're in this tournament. But again, this tournament is so wide open that sort of an average Duke team could make the Final Four. So they're my third team, and then this team at some point this team's going to win one, right? They're mid-major, but they're always there, highly successful. They just can't get over that final hump. Could this be the year I got them in my Final Four, which they're not strangers to before, and that's Gonzaga. So I got Gonzaga, Texas, Baylor, and Duke.
I think I like yours better now that I've heard them.
So, and listen, this is the year I've watched the least amount. Maybe that's the trick. I
was about to say that's the problem
maybe
with
that's
the bracket.
the answer.
All right, well then we're not going to put any money on this. This will just be a handshake.
Yeah.
I live in a legal gambling state, so it's okay to talk.
Yeah, I do too now. So
yeah, exactly. All right, well we've gone a little bit over, but this was too much fun not to. And guys, please remember, do not take our picks seriously.
Yeah, but if you do and you win some money, email us and we'll send you our PayPal addresses.
100% legitimate. John, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.